with disabilities. However, they found this was not enough. It certainly increased the number of students with disabilities graduating high school, but they weren't moving on to post-secondary education or employment at the rate of their typical peers. This brought about the emphasis and addition of transition planning to the IEP in the 2004 revision, which basically called for the implementation of transition services by the age of 16. It clarified transition services as a coordinated set of activities for students with disabilities that are designed to be a results-oriented process, improving academic and functional achievement, but also facilitating the student's movement from school to post-school options. The essential components of the transition plan include transition assessments, student input and preferences, post-secondary outcome goals, and lastly, transition goals and activities that assist the student to work towards these post-secondary goals. Considering the intent and benefits of transition planning for students with disabilities, virtual job shadow can go hand in hand with IDEA and transition planning and become an essential tool to help the student navigate, expand, and prepare for independent living and achieving career goals. Next, Lila is going to talk with us about the Bridge Bill and the IGP.
Hey everybody, Lila Young from Columbus. It's cold down here this morning. I'm getting some feedback, Jeff. I'm hoping you guys hear it as well.
Yeah, I think I caught it.
Okay, thanks. All right, so the Bridge Act, or House Bill 400, was signed into law in May of 2010 to create relevance of education and training to the dreams and future plans of our students. The implementation of the Bridge Act provides middle and high school students with career counseling within the school setting and regularly scheduled advisement to choose a focused plan of study. Now, as part of the Bridge Act, all 8th grade students are required to create an individual graduation plan. The plan helps map out focused work in core classes and career pathway coursework. This graduation plan drives the transition plan, which is part of the student's IEP and its development. So how can virtual job shadowing help our student meet their transition goals? Well, in 9th grade, as part of the Bridge Bill Act, they are supposed to explore 3 careers. So with virtual job shadowing, our students are easily able to explore thousands of jobs, fulfilling that requirement with a click of a button. Now in 10th grade, students are required to take a career interest and aptitude inventory. Virtual job shadowing has both the career clusters inventory as well as the O-Net interest profiler. Once completed, students are able to search for jobs within their careers of interest. 11th graders are required to save 3 possible choices of post-secondary options. Again, this is effortlessly accomplished and transferable, as virtual job shadowing allows students to save their favorite jobs to their career profile. Now, the Bridge Bill for 12th graders requires them to complete their next steps on their electronic career portfolio. With virtual job shadowing, it will show the students all the many different ways they can achieve their goals. Now, this includes apprenticeships, job training, college, etc. And these maps for their goals can be saved under their career profile. And this career profile is accessible to the administrators of the program, can be printed out and shared. So with virtual job shadowing, when it is fully implemented, it can be very beneficial in goal setting and transitioning for our students. It assists us educators in developing IEP goals that support the students' dreams and their future plans. One of the newer options within virtual job shadowing is the life skill videos. All of our students could probably benefit from watching these videos. These cover simple things such as diet and exercising. They also cover self-advocacy, budgeting, leadership, how to apply for jobs online, applying for a loan. And this has quickly become my favorite part of virtual job shadowing. So again, this is easily accessible and so beneficial to not only our students, but to us educators and our community, as it helps us assist our students reach their dreams and their goals for the future. Now we will hear from Ms. Rebecca Williamson.
Thank you, Lila. For the GVRA side of legislation, we have the Work Investment and Opportunities Act that was signed into law in 2014. It was a reauthorization of the Rehab Act of 1973. And the newer parts in the WIOA legislation really focused on youth and students with disabilities, or students who potentially meet the criteria of having a disability and could be served by the VR programs. So WIOA legislates that we set aside a certain percentage of the money that the VR programs spend to serve students and youth with disabilities. So that is one big push of this legislation for VR to spend this designated money to reach these target individuals. It also defined what a student with disability was, who would be eligible to receive some of these specific services. So we are looking at students that are transition age, which the early age of transition is defined by the state. So in Georgia, we're looking at anywhere between 14 and 16-year-olds, and then it goes through their 22nd birthday. So it connects with the IDEA age range pretty clearly. It also defines school enrollment. So students who are enrolled in secondary or post-secondary education and who are under 22 years old can qualify for our pre-employment transition services. The part that Virtual Job Shadow really helps us to come together about is the collaboration piece that's mandated under this legislation. It mandates that the VR programs will work collectively with the local education agencies to coordinate transition services and pre-employment transition services for the potentially eligible students. And also, moving on to the next little block for what the Pre-Eds are. Pre-employment transition services are these earliest array of work readiness, job readiness categories. There's 5 required services under the WIOA legislation. The 5 required pre-employment transition services are career exploration services, work readiness training, counseling on post-secondary options, work-based learning experiences, and self-advocacy. So they go along, as Lila and Susan said, very well with what IDEA already legislates and what's required under the Bridge Bill and for transition planning for students with disabilities.
Thanks, Rebecca and Susan and Lila. So how do Virtual Job Shadow and Pre-Eds align? As I kind of explained in the opening, built into the system really are all 5 of the required areas. There are flex lessons around self-advocacy, self-determination stuff. There's flex lessons around what it takes to get into different levels of colleges. It allows you to explore entrance criteria, things along those lines. Naturally, you have the ability to explore different careers because there's videos around a myriad of jobs on there that they can look into. So really the platform itself lines up very well with what we are trying to get set out and work with as far as the pre-employment transition services, especially in our current situation where COVID is still ever evolving. This allows us to have that virtual based platform where we can get those services in the hands of our students. Elise, I believe you're up on this one.
So the question is, why have a rollout redesign? Because as Jeff said, this time last year, we were rolling out Virtual Job Shadow. And in the course of this year, we have found some gaps in some areas where we needed to support each other a little better to make sure students have access. So the purpose of this redesign is to increase the number of students who have access to Virtual Job Shadow. We are barely touching the capacity we have to provide Virtual Job Shadow, and we want to be able to increase that even beyond what we have the capacity for, but we have to get those kids in. By doing this, we also will allow the districts to be part of the have designees as part of the Virtual Job Shadow administration of their programs within their schools. And this will provide the schools with more flexibility to determine what that virtual job shadowing would look like in terms of when would it be done, in what groups, and how that will work. Now, I want to stop for 1 minute to just say something. The transition talks are for everyone. We originally intended it to be that way. So we have a lot of transition people on here, and we welcome you to continue to come, even as we talk about the Virtual Job Shadow. But there are specific people who are on this broadcast who were selected by their district administrators to be the designee for the district for Virtual Job Shadow. So those people in addition to receiving a link because they went through the email blast or any other form, received a personal email from me that indicated that you were that person. And so those are the people who, when we start to talk about the expectations and the things will be done, will lead the work in your district. And your being involved in this conversation and hearing helps you to support them to make that happen, because knowledge is very important to know what's supposed to happen and when it's supposed to happen, even though you may not be the designee for that district. And in doing this redesign, it's going to give us a way to provide structured and a systematic process for how you access this platform and how you use supplemental materials that will run from 9th grade all the way through to the time the student transitions out, and build on all of the different pre-eds types of skills that they will need for employment.
So we've kind of established some goals and some timelines for this particular rollout that we wanted to go ahead and discuss with you all now. The first one is all of the designated school districts that Elise was just talking about. We're going to make sure that your designated person is assigned as an administrator in the system and has received the VJS administrators training that is actually built into the system itself. And our goal for that is March the 31st of this year. The next one is that we are hoping all districts will have been able to complete the implementation plan by April 30th of this year. And then naturally our overarching goal, because we do have a targeted focus for this one, is that all of those 9th graders that are being served under an IEP or a 504 that wish to participate or that are appropriate to participate will have been referred to VR and will be provisioned to receive services under virtual job shadow by May of 2022. And then lastly on there, we're going to utilize the data that we're capturing from VJS in a reporting that we can send out to both our GVRA colleagues and our school district colleagues, just to kind of show the progress and the usage and things along those lines. We really want to use the data to help drive our decision making around the usage of the virtual job shadowing platform. And the people over at Virtual Job Shadowing really have been
Says Alt A.
Where's
Alt?
Hang on one second, I'm getting some feedback. They really have been a pleasure to work with and have been open to ideas and things of helping us as we look for potentially adding other lessons and things into the system. So having the data that we can capture across the state will really help us in future decision making when it comes to the software and the platform. So I'll turn it back over to Elise to talk about kind of the expectations from our school district designees.
So one of the parts that we wanted to talk about for this redesign is who does what. That's always important to know who is supposed to be doing particular activities and who's responsible. And a lot of times we're given a task to do and we're busy doing our task, but we don't really know what happens after our task is done or after we do a handoff. So because this is a collaborative activity and these transition talks are meant to inform about VR as well as school systems, we wanted to kind of outline that for you. So let's talk about the expectations for the school district designees. Those are the people that I just spoke about who were selected by their districts. Their names were submitted to us and you received a personal email from me saying that you were a designee. So part of the expectation for you is that you will gather those GVRA referral packets, which are the parent permission form and the copy of the current IEP or 504. And then you can mark those students as targeted to the virtual job shadow in the subject line of an email or on a on the PPF. And I guess that's part of the VR's documentation.
That's the parental permission form shortened down.
That's right. And you will be submitting those packets to the GVRA transition staff for your VR district. And in a minute, we're going to show you that because we still have that, right, Jeff, for them, the listing on the slides. I think it's like 4 or 5 slides down.
Of the
who that the VR contact is.
Oh, no, because we're actually making just a few changes to that. We're going to send that out afterwards because we had to make a few changes on that.
Okay, so look for that from either myself or Rebecca. When you get emails from us from now on, it's going to be from both me and Rebecca so that she and I are both aware of what is being sent from the school side as well as from the VR side. So that lead person will gather that information and designate it as virtual job shadow in the subject line. And if your district has additional requirements, which some of your districts do, and we don't legislate that, but you need to do that extra stuff if it's required, you're going to send that to your GVRA transition staff person. And then you're going to maintain a detailed list of the packets that you submit to VR, which will have the dates and the VJS licenses assigned to the students once you receive them. You're also going to share information and train and communicate about the virtual job shadow platform, the lessons and all the things that we will be working with you on with your other colleagues in the school districts who may be on this call, on this webinar now, or may not, but so that they are up to speed, they know how to use the platform, they know how to use the lessons, and they are going to follow the plan that you're going to later develop in one of our upcoming webinars. So that is the expectation for the school designee. I think we have another slide for you for that group. The other piece is that you're going to keep your special education administrators updated on all of the progress and everything going on with this virtual job shadow. Jeff and I spoke to the directors in December, and we spoke to them again in January. And then I've had some individual meetings with directors and some of our GNETS directors also to get them to come on board to make this happen. And our special ed directors want to know what's going on, so they want to have their hands in it. So we will be communicating with them too. When we send stuff to you, we will be CCing them. But we want you to be the movers and the shakers of this and keep them up to date and on what's going on so that they don't feel like they have to be right there to make it happen, because we know special ed directors have a lot to contend with and a lot they have to go on. So we don't want any gaps. So as the designee, it's your responsibility to make sure that your director knows as much about what's going on as you know, and about the trainings as you know. I mentioned earlier that any emails that we send out or I send out, Rebecca, you met earlier, will be CC'd on around virtual job shadow. All of this is about virtual job shadow. And then Rebecca, anything she sends out around virtual job shadow will be sent to me. If you have any anomalies or issues with virtual job shadow, with the communication between VR people and your special education teachers, staff, whatever it is, please send those emails to me and Rebecca at the same time so that we can immediately respond, so we don't have lags in services to our students. We also want you to make sure that you are reviewing the virtual job shadow account access list, which is a spreadsheet that you'll receive, and report any missing accounts to the VR designated contact. So when you say you submitted this child's name on a certain date to receive that license, and then you get the report back of the licenses that have been issued and that child is not on it, we need to know that right away. That's a disconnect, and we want to stay on top of that. And we also want you to be able to pull data from the virtual job shadow on student usage at the end of each semester, so that you're aware of how often the kids are going in and how they are using the platform, so that you can inform how you want to proceed with your students, as well as us understanding what is happening across the state.
Thanks, Elise. All right, so for over on the VR side, these are kind of what we're looking at as our expectations. And for most of you, this shouldn't be anything real different than what we've been trying to put into place. The biggest one is we are going to try to gather a list of the students that are already currently enrolled in virtual job shadow, and we'll provide that to our school designees that the special education directors have provided to us by February the 15th, just so that they know who's already enrolled. Just like as we've been doing, once you guys receive your referral packets from your designated LEA contact, You'll make sure that we're entering that information into the case management software, getting them updated to a student with a disability. And then the only other difference is we want to ensure that we're getting information back over to our contacts at the school district that the student has been added into the system, and that the bulk upload forms has been sent out. Also, just as a note, and I believe we've been talking about this as well, lack of a social security number should not be a holdup as part of the process of getting a student in as a PTS case. However, it helps us out in the long run if we already have that. But if that is a holdup, then we don't want that to slow down the student from being able to take place in pre-employment transition services. And for our VR staff, if you guys have any specific questions around that, please reach out to Rebecca and we'll help you out on that end of things. Now my slides are frozen. There we go. So also, once you've received that information, you'll submit your bulk upload spreadsheet to those of you that have the transition supervisors. They're assisting us with this. So you'll either submit it to the transition supervisors or to Rebecca and myself to ensure that we are getting those bulk uploaded spreadsheets into Virtual Job Shadow so that they can get them linked to the correct school and VR district. And like I mentioned on the previous slide, we want to make sure that we're providing the follow-up information to our district contacts to let them know that the student's information has been added to virtual job shadowing and the accounts are good to go within 10 business days of the receipt of the referral packet. That allows for some time, of course, for things to be completed by the virtual job shadowing staff to get everybody in the system. And then, kind of like we were talking about earlier, we also want to ensure that we're all pulling our data around the student usage so that we can have that conversation with our cohorts over at the education side around what the students are participating in, but also to ensure that we're accurately capturing the usage of the student in our case management system through an actual services entry.
So I just want to add something to what Jeff was saying when he was talking about the 10 days. So that means when you send a student's packet in and it's left your hands, if the email is gone, you should expect in 10 days to receive a spreadsheet that will reflect that that student has access to virtual job shadow, has their license. Now let's have grace with each other. Let's be kind to one another. 10 days is a good amount of time, but you don't have to jump on 10 days and come right out with it. You could wait a couple of days, 2-3 days, but don't let things sit for weeks. You should see that student provision for virtual job shadow, give or take a few days, within 10 days. If not, then that's an anomaly that you want to reach out to me and Rebecca about so we can follow up and see what's happening.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
So I want to talk about the next steps. And these next steps really pertain, well, everything we've been talking about really pertains to those designees. This is something the designees must do. I'm so sorry, must do. The rest of you, if you're not a designee, it would be nice to assist if they want you to assist them, but it is not what we're expecting you to do. So we want you to collect and submit those VR referral packets targeting 9th graders starting immediately. That means you're now going to start getting those forms. And if you don't know where the forms are, then you can reach out to me or Rebecca and we'll tell you where to find them and how to get them. That parent permission form and those IEPs and 504s. You cannot send partial documents. You must have the complete packet. That IEP or 504 must be accompanied by the parent permission form that is the virtual job shadow, the VR parent permission form, and sent out. And of course, when you send that out, start your list. That must happen and start doing all your 9th graders. All your 9th graders. When you have exhausted your 9th graders, you can move on to the next group, but we will talk about that in the next session. Right now, there are enough 9th graders right now that we want to get them in. Someone says, is that the FY22 9th graders or the FY23? Start with your 9th graders currently sitting in your buildings. That's who we want. Your ninth graders currently sitting in your buildings, because we're still in FY22 and we're trying to get them all in before, I think May was that target date. Is that right, Jeff? I'm off the top of my head, but it was on one of those slides.
Yep, it was.
Okay, that's a priority. When you have exhausted that and you have all your ninth graders, then you can move to 12th graders, 11th graders, 10th graders, and so forth. But we want every ninth grader packet submitted so we can get that started. We want you to start looking at preliminarily planning what virtual job shadow might look like in your district. And I'm saying you know, you're going to take a look at it, start thinking about it, because we're going to talk about what we envision this could be, the rollout in terms of it having vertical alignment from grade to grade, so that this isn't something we're just doing now, that it becomes the practice on how we do things, so that when you get to FY23, you're adding your ninth graders and they're coming into the virtual job platform in a certain way, and they're doing certain supplemental lessons and so forth and so on. So it becomes the culture of how you do virtual job shadow. And you want to start to think about it in terms of how it will maximize the use of virtual job shadow. That would require for you to collaborate with your other partners, other transition people, special ed, your director, because we just want you to visualize right now and have something to talk about when we get to that. We want you to look at a local rollout of, well, what groups? Well, certainly we're talking ninth graders, but some people do, well, I want to make sure my kids with my ID kids are in first or together in a classroom at this particular time, or that we do it as a group session, or we do small groups, or we do individual. That's what we want you to start to think of, as opposed to when in the past, some of you have said, and it's not necessarily the case with everybody, but some of you have said you were told you can only have this many kids and at this day on this time, and that was it for the semester. That is no longer the case, because now you're all collaborating together to maximize the use of this platform and to provide access to the students, provide access for students to get the most out of the virtual job shadow. And this would be also looking at the connection to your transition planning goals for your kids, as well as aligning it with some of your 18 to 22 transition programs that you have. So can start thinking about that, because we're going to get into a planning stage and we don't want you to come in cold or tabula rasa, so to speak. We want you to have some things on your mind that have not come just from you, but has come from your district in terms of what your district would like to see. We want you to make sure you download these handouts. I guess that's the handouts we were just talking about. You'll find them under the administrative resources for your virtual job shadow. Jeff, oh, there it is. See, you can see the link there. And Jeff, we're going to send out these. How are they getting the PowerPoint again?
So since we have everybody's contact, at least an email on that job form that we had everybody fill out, I figure we'll send them all back out to them that way, to the designees for each district, and then they can share them with anybody else within their district that they feel like may need them. That was my thought.
Okay, that sounds good, but let's not use that job form, because I have a new form, because there've been a lot of change for a lot of stuff. Okay, just spent like 2 days kind of figuring all the pieces out. But those are the URLs you'll use. We want you to download that staff guide to user activities and getting started guide and the flex lessons FAQ. We want you to download it and start looking at it, because we are going to delve into that platform and we want you to be knowledgeable about what's there. Jeff?
Yep.
Next one.
Sorry, I was looking at I was going to answer one of the questions in between.
That's okay, go ahead.
I saw there were 2 or 3 kind of similar questions around, will you be able to go in and kind of look at things, and when will you have access? So since we have the designee list now, we are already started working with our partners at Virtual Job Shadow to ensure that if your school does not already have what we call a gate set up, that we're getting that set up, and as well as those of you that have been named as the designees, getting you set up as an administrator in there as well. We've been working on that since you guys finished that list out, I believe, last week, and we've been working with them to go ahead and start getting all that. So you'll get an email from the virtual job shadowing people letting you know that you have login access and providing you with like a temporary password to be able to get in there, and then you'll be able to go in and create your own password once that's done. So I just wanted to hit that real quick before we finished out, because I saw a couple of questions specifically around that while Elise was talking.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. And Jeff, we need to make sure we align that with the list because it's updated and some people are no longer on that original list from last year
Right.
for whatever reasons. Okay, so now to the designee, although all of you are invited, we want you to, someone said February 21st is a holiday. What holiday is that? Someone help me. I'm so bad with that.
I think it's winter break for some.
President's Day.
President's Day.
Okay, stay tuned for a revamp on that date. We're not going to move it. We'll probably move it a day before, a day after, but it's not going to be far away. It's going to be right in that ballpark. But the designees are required to attend every one of these sessions. Thank you, everyone who put that answer as to what holiday February 21st is. I must not have it as a holiday for me, so I'll be working. So we'll change that date, but the designees must attend these trainings. These trainings have been put together to systematically focus on the pieces you need so we can build this process out instead of throwing everything to you at one time. Today is the overview. The very next one, as you can see, is about the virtual job shadowing, virtual job shadow platform, so that you'll be able to go in the platform, you get the training like Jeff was talking about and the handouts. I will be sending out the invites very soon for all of these meetings so that we can do them in teams, regardless of whether it's VR leading or the DOE leading. And we will also post them in the Friday email blast. And that will be it'll come out not tomorrow, next Friday. We will put those links in there because if you're not the designee, you won't get a personal email from Rebecca and I, but you will be able to access the links through the Friday email blast, which is located on the special education website. And certainly if you have a problem figuring that out, you can just reach out to me and I can help you find it. We want you to complete the on-demand VJS training that are going to be embedded in the virtual job shadow platform by March 31st. We are going to when we meet the next time, we're going to give you the names of those on-demand trainings and show you where to find them. And you can do them at your own pace, but they must be done by March 31st because this is the knowledge base you'll need to have in order to be administrators or to work this platform and or to be very familiar with the platform. Thank you, Newton County, letting me know about the 18th. I appreciate it. On March 18th, we're going to be talking about some samples or examples of how you might want to roll out your vertical alignment of the VJS with curriculum. As you met earlier, and they're shy because I don't see their pictures, Lila was with us, and so was Susan. I don't see their pictures,
I'm
so they're
here.
not there. I know you're here. I just don't see your faces.
And my
But-
camera's on.
Oh, good. There's so many people and I couldn't find you. Great. I'm glad they turned on their cameras earlier because we want you to become familiar with them. They are transition coordinators or specialists in their districts. They have been conceptualizing all of the different types of ways that this could work for a school district and how you could implement, how you can build capacity, how you can have a vertical alignment and so forth. And we're going to introduce you to that, and they will be leading those discussions. It does not mean you have to do it that way, but they're going to show you some things that you might not have thought of. And specifically because a couple of them have already been doing that and they're bringing that to the table for you. But I want you to have something on your mind about what you want to do so that when you come into that meeting on March 18th and see these different options and examples, you can see how what you were thinking plugs in, or you may say, I think I like what they're presenting a little better. These examples and options are not required, but it's to help you to create a program in your district that works best for your district and is systematic and aligned. And then the final training will be on April 18th. And we don't have a topic for that at the moment because we're going to look at what's still needed in order to form that, because we want to make sure that you're implementing this virtual job shadow with the kids who end up getting provisioned for the rest of the school year that we have, which won't be a whole lot after April, but you can at least get started and move on to be ready in the fall, or for those of you who will be having summer school or offering extended school year, you can continue using the virtual job shadow following the plan that your district chooses to adopt. Jeff?
Yep. So also just kind of to wrap it up, some additional supports. There is so much built into the platform itself around troubleshooting, little videos that they've already created around different aspects of it. You know, kind of leaning back to the question that was asked a few minutes ago about will we be able to go in and do some exploration. Once we get you guys set up with your login information, that's also what I would recommend as a great step, is to go in and kind of look and see what's all available to you in there as well. We will provide you a list, like Elise was saying, with those ones that are specific to follow through with, but there's other things in there that may very well be of interest to you. So the virtualjobshadowing.com is definitely a great support in and of itself, and they have some of the best customer service I think I've dealt with the platform. And also, as been mentioned multiple times, you have both Rebecca and Elise, and of course myself as well, that you can reach out to if you have specific questions around the platform or anything related to this rollout. We're here for that. And that's the bulk of today's presentation. Elise, do we want to?
Yes, I was going to say, let's open up the floor if we can, but I see a question coming from Mountain Education Charter High School, and then it was echoed in same here concerning virtual schools. Apparently, they would like to have a call or a meeting to discuss what this could look like, since they already have partnerships with Virtual Job Shadow because of their, they are already virtual.
Yep.
So let's maybe, Jeff, we could kind of do a quick 30 minutes somewhere along the way with that population, because that is really unique to them.
Well, and I think if I remember correctly, when we did our conversation, maybe it was back in January, we had mentioned that, you know, for those schools that are virtual or in a unique situation where their school system may already be somewhat utilizing the platform, that we do want to have kind of a separate conversation with you all around the possibility of how things could work. So that we're ensuring that all of our students with disabilities at least have access to this. So yeah, if you will reach out or what? Go ahead, Elise. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say we can reach out and we could set aside some time to have that very specific conversation around your district and how things look, like, you know, Georgia Cyber Academy or anything along those lines. And then like Mountain Ed, I know you guys have, you know, also a unique situation where you're covering multiple counties, et cetera.
And GNETs has that too, but they're going to be coming in as GNETs, as a district of all their own. But maybe, Jeff, we should just do a session, plan a session, 30, 45-minute session, where that's a Q&A, so we can address these unique needs for the virtual schools and programs like Mountain Ed, which is they use computers and the kids kind of come in, they're not in a traditional school setting like that.
Right.
And we can get that information out through the email blast. And because we have the listings for all of those schools, we can send them a personal email for that. There was a question about where the PowerPoint and the recording will be housed. Jeff, would you like to address that?
Yeah, sure. So once we wrap everything up today and the recording is downloaded, I've already had a conversation with our communications team, and we're going to have it posted more than likely on our YouTube account that's open to anybody. That way we aren't trying to email the file back and forth, because we learned last time we did one of these that the files are just too large for email. And what we'll be able to do is we'll have that link available to you all. I know Elisa talked about potentially housing it on y'all's side.
We will.
I'm going to ask our communications team to house it on our side under the transition page that we're working to develop out, so you'll be able to access it. As far as the presentation, we can also make a copy of that available there. And like we mentioned earlier, since we have the contacts for the designees, and Elise has really been working to get that all cleaned up and has a form for that, we'll make sure that we get those emailed out to you all as well.
Okay. And so, Jeff, as soon as you have that ready, we're ready to go ahead and add our component to the transition website for DOE so that it'll be there for people to see. Now, I see a question that says, can this point be sent to me? I am new to Pre-Eds and I need to review resources to better understand my assignment. Okay, so I'm not quite sure of I'm not sure of the question of can this point be sent to me? I'm not sure what that is. But if you are the designee for your district appointed by your special education director, you will get all of the information downloads, because you'll have access to all those things in those trainings, and you will share and redeliver to your district people so they have an understanding, because they will be working with the kids. We sent out, we have as designees over 300 people as designees for the district. If you think about it, we have over 200 districts, because that counts our virtual schools. And so if you have one designee, which we have actually asked districts to not have just one, everybody needs support and a backup, and if anyone gets sick, we don't want the work to stop. So each district has almost 2 to 3 designees. So we actually probably have more than 300 people. So in terms of communicating specifically and to groups, we have to deal with the designees, and the designees can share and further that training and access to documents with you. However, you are all welcome to come to all of these trainings so that you can hear everything that we are saying.
Scrolling back through the questions, I see another one for clarification. Should we give all the current 9th graders the VJS and GVRA forms out before our next meeting? So, I mean, the encouragement is to go ahead and start putting the word out there with your 9th graders, sending the forms home to see if the parents will fill them out and bring them back. And that can start immediately. We realize you're probably not going to get every 9th grader between now and the next meeting, but it's definitely available for things to start being sent home now, so that we can start getting those documents back in for the students.
Yes, and so remember that the deadline, we're trying to get it all 9th graders in by May. That doesn't mean we think it's going to take that long for everybody, but we have some rather large districts have a lot of 9th graders. So start now and be diligent. And if you need help from your district people to follow up behind your parents, do that. But you are the point of contact. You are the one and the only one we will receive the virtual job shadow information from. I keep saying virtual job shadow because this is not pertaining to the other types of referrals you're doing for VR services, so on. This is only about virtual job shadow. So get started as soon as possible. And when you've gotten all your 9th graders in, start adding other kids so we can get them in also. I'm seeing some other questions. The question was about the YouTube location. We will get that information to the designees as soon as we have it.
Yep, it'll be a direct link.
Yes, to the designees, and please share it with your other people. But we will also post it in the Friday email blast. And so please keep watching the Friday email blast, which you should do anyway, because it has a lot of information about transition as well as other initiatives and things going on around the state. Yeah. Students only need to be referred once. A new parent permission form is not. Okay, thank you, Rebecca, for answering the question. If they only need to be referred once. When you get that document spreadsheet, you will look to see if they've been provisioned. If you've referred them before and you know you referred them and they're not provisioned, that's something you need to send to Rebecca and I so we can follow up.
Yep. And I see another one in here real quick that from Carla asking, how would this relate to the severe population of special ed? There are some things that would work for most students. We also have the ability, depending on time and things like that, that we could come in and lead some of the lessons, in person if we needed to walk through it. But I will also go out there and say that virtual job shadow may not work for absolutely every student. And in those situations, naturally, we'll look at other pre-employment transition services that may better fit their need. But it is a platform that works for the vast majority of students. So that's definitely a conversation that can take place there at the local school between you and your VR dedicated individual to figure out, is it better that we come in and maybe do a more live pre-ed service versus some of the ones maybe being assigned through virtual job shadow. But I know we had an individual, without disclosing too much, that was on had Down syndrome, that was able to actually navigate the system on their own and was actually very successful. So it depends on the student. But we have seen success from all kinds of different levels of disability as well as types of disabilities.
Rebecca, can you answer the question about, is it the same PPF that you all use for referrals?
It is. It's exactly the same form. And I also want to mention, if your school district is already using virtual job shadow through GVRA and you have students assigned, then those same students don't need to be referred through again. And the educators that you have linked in virtual job shadow will still use their same access. They won't need to be assigned new credentials in virtual job shadow.
And the parent permission form is the same form. That's why when you send it in to your transition specialist for VR, you're going to put in the subject line VJS, so they know that this is for VJS. It's the same parental form. Someone asked, where do we get the Friday email blast? So if you will all look at your chat right now, I am giving you the link to the weekly email blast. I call it Friday because it comes out on Friday, but it's called the weekly email blast. And you will see them listed all the way back to 2016, and they're listed by month. So when you click on the month, you will see everything for the month. So they keep building on it. So everything we've done so far in January is already in there. And the last one for January is going to be probably today. Yes, today, because the next Friday is February. So that will be the next email blast coming out in February. But there's one coming out this Friday.
I see another question real quick from Kristen Pewitt over in Cobb. So they've got a situation there where they're not able to release the IEPs directly. It has to come after a request has been made from VR through like a release of information form. So Kristen, in that situation, naturally get the parental permission form over to us, letting us know that you have students that are interested in the virtual job shadowing, and then we'll work to get the releases turned right back around so that we can get that IEP, because unfortunately we can't proceed forward pre-eds until we have the IEP, because that's how we are able to verify that they do meet that student with a disability. And that's just all around, federal auditing and things along those lines. But, we can set up a process specific to your area. And I think we even mentioned it on one of the slides that, if you have a district that requires additional paperwork, et cetera, we can actually map out a process specific to your area that still kind of stays within that time frame that we're trying to accomplish. So if you want to, we can do some follow-up with you and the team over there out of the Marietta office. But it shouldn't be a super big deal. We'll just make sure we add in that additional step for your process.
Okay, and so that's an anomaly. Anything that goes outside this process we just showed you is an anomaly. So Kristen, when you do that, make sure you CC me and Rebecca so we're aware of it and can make things happen. Anybody else who have any district types of protocols like that, which go outside of this, that's an anomaly. Let us know so we want to kind of stand in the gap so that things don't get left undone because there is an anomaly. We want to make sure we move it along. So Jeff really kind of said we'll make that happen, but Rebecca and I need to know so we can stay on top of it. We are really trying to fix this so that we don't have gaps in services and people don't know where things are. So everything that Rebecca knows, I want to know, and everything I know, I want Rebecca to know so we can serve you better.
Nancy Scott, I don't know if we answered this in real time, but if they are already an active GVRA individual client student that we recognize, there isn't a different application for virtual job shadow. When you receive your list of students that are already in the system, and if they're not on there, that would be one of those anomalies that Elise was talking about. Just let us know and we'll ensure that we make sure that they have a license, but there isn't like a separate special process just for those to get virtual job shadow.
Someone asked about all of the trainings. The trainings will all be virtual. We are not currently planning to meet in person. All of these trainings will be virtual. The presentations will not be mailed to you. We're going to post them. The links to them in the email blast. We will post them in the when Jeff has the transition site up, he'll post them, and I will start a transition VJS site on the transition website for DOE, which will have all of the information for the meetings. We won't be mailing them out there. There are a lot of you, and in order to give, first of all, we only are keeping the names and emails of the people who are the designee that we're required to train, and that was a lot of people, but we want all of you to have access to it, so we're going to post them. And I just put that URL in the chat for the email blast, so you'll be able to find it.
I see a couple coming from some of my awesome people here at GVRA about their designated person and what does that mean. So yeah, Elise and I have been collecting information, and it wrapped up right over the weekend. And she's been cleaning up the form. And so for my GVRA staff, we will have that list for you guys. Elise, do you pretty much have that pretty much cleaned up? Is it something I could
By tomorrow? By
Perfect.
tomorrow. I've been getting some emails from different directors. I forgot someone, this person is no longer there. I just need to drop those in and we're good to go and take
Perfect.
those other people out.
So for my GVRA folks that were asking about just making sure you had the correct designee, as soon as Elise gets that over to me, I will turn around and equally send that right back out through your district managers and supervisors so that you'll have that access as well. And so they are the designee for the district, but that does not mean they may not include other teachers that are going to be helping them with this. They'll just be that primary point of contact for their district, if that makes sense. Jennifer, I think that that answered up your question that you had.
And S. Dion Davis, you asked me to include you in the list for your GNETs. If I don't have the GNETs names listed in that table, I need you to send that to me immediately so I can get it in there before I send this to Jeff. Now, if for the directors, and there's some directors here because we want them to be able to hear, if you haven't submitted those names, I'm asking you to get that to me immediately so I can send it to Jeff. Certainly if you send it next week, the week after and everything, we'll get to it, but that's going to delay the process and we're going to move forward tomorrow. I'm going to send Jeff what he needs so we have that, and then we'll be plugging you in. I'd like to get you started on the ground floor instead of catching up. Okay, so get that to me immediately so that I can send Jeff a complete list. And of course, as things change, we will be flexible, but you know, that just kind of makes things slow down a little bit.
So I see there was about 5 or 6 of roughly the same question there, Elise. So again, to reiterate, if you have already referred students and already submitted a parental permission form in their IEP, you do not have to resubmit that. If they're not currently utilizing the virtual job shadowing platform, maybe it's because your school hadn't opted to go into that yet, or under any other circumstance, just notify the staff, VR staff person that you're working with, that those students are interested in participating in virtual job shadow, and that's what you'll need to do. You won't have to resubmit a new parental permission form or another copy of the IEP. That's already handled there. I saw several folks had asked a similar version of that, so just to clear that portion up.
These are some very good questions, and I know we're supposed to stop at 2, but I want to make sure we address them if we can. If people who have to go, you can go, but let's do the best we can. Jeff, there's a question about if you have parental consents for your high school students, do you have to resubmit each year? I don't think so. I think once they're in, they're in. That
kind of feeds back into the question I just answered, because I saw that one as I was going through. Yeah, so it's as long as we have an original copy of the parental permission, that's good for their time that they're in high school. There's no need to update it unless something were to change, or if a parent, had retracted it during some time. So you should be fine there. Piggybacking off of that, I see another question here that I completely forgot for us to put in the slides, at least, that I knew would come up. So the question is, if we're submitting for the 9th graders for GVRA, will they also be seeing their GVRA case manager, or will that still wait until 11th and 12th grade? So I think it's important to talk about the kind of continuum that is the transition services under GVRA. So all students can start out under what we call a potentially eligible caseload, meaning they haven't been through the full-blown VR process where they've been determined eligible for services or are under an individualized plan for employment, but they are eligible to receive the pre-employment transition services. Those individuals are more than likely going to be working with what we call a pre-employment specialist. That person's role is specifically to either coordinate or deliver the pre-employment transition services. Then around that 11th grade year, unless there's some other need to move it earlier, around that 11th grade year is when they'll move over and actually apply for VR services and go through the full-blown process of being determined eligible. And so they will have access to VR staff at any given time. But when you think about actually having a dedicated VR counselor and actually being under an individualized plan for employment, that happens around that 11th and 12th grade year, unless there's a specific need for the student. Maybe they have a more severe disability, and Pre-Eds at this point need to become more very focused on that individual's disability. That's when we made that move over. But historically, that's going to take place around the 11th grade year.
And there's a question about obtaining the login credentials for virtual job shadow. Only those designees that were submitted by the directors will receive those credentials, and they will be sent to you individually. That's why Jeff is asking me for the list. So he can send that list to the virtual job shadow administrators so they can go ahead and provision you for your credentials and send that information out to you. So hold up on it. It is going to be coming. So just wait on us. And we should have that done before we meet the next time, Jeff, too.
Yeah, exactly. I see another question. Who will be sending us the spreadsheet of our current VJS clients? So that'll come from your VR staff person that's assigned to your school. And the deadline that we outlined was that you would have that information by February 15th. So roughly about 2 weeks.
And I saw that someone said that the designee for their district wasn't able to attend today, and so they asked this person to attend. So I think that's a very good idea. We expect all the designees to be in these meetings, and we've already said that to the directors when they chose you as a designee, but we know things happen and you might not be able to be there. So it's a great idea to have someone to come in your proxy so that they can hear what's going on and be able to share that with you, but we will still only communicate with those designees.
Elise, I'm not a proxy for this person. I'm the VR person that goes to the school.
Cool.
And she had just mentioned it to me because she had a conflict. So, and that's why I asked the question previously about if there was only one person from each school system that Jeff answered previously. Because I didn't see anyone else from the county that I recognized the name on here. So that was why I was asking.
Oh, and that question really sparked that thought for me, so that I could tell other people, please make sure you have someone in here for your proxy if you can't make it. Because there are a few people who aren't here who asked me if they could have other people. But some districts, we have really asked districts to at least have 2 people. If you reach out to me directly, I can let you know if there's more than one person, or your director will know because they're the one that submitted the name. But right off the top of my head, I don't know. I don't remember any district just having one. And where I saw that, I really encouraged them to have more than one, other than the special ed director themselves.
Thank you.
So Elise, in the interest of time, I know that we had it scheduled for till 2 o'clock. And I see we're still getting steady questions coming in. We're going to have access to this chat even after we end this out. And one of the things I like to do when I do my transition talk, especially on a newer topic, is I like to provide everybody with what we call an FAQ. So I take all of the questions that have been asked, kind of compile them into groups, and then I produce a document with answers for all those. So since we're getting a lot of the same questions, how about we create that FAQ, and we'll also include that as part of probably next Friday's e-blast that goes out, and when we send out the other information about this particular presentation. That way we can address these conversations, but also not continue to go over our time. How does that sound for everybody?
That sounds good.
Yep.
There's a question. There won't be any separate sessions for any groups, by the way. All of the trainings will apply to all of the groups. We're only going to meet with the virtual people because they're virtual, and they may already have virtual job shadow because they are virtual. So we're talking to them specifically around that. But all of the sessions we are creating are designated for every district, regardless of what type of school you're in. So the conversation with the virtual school isn't even going to be about the way the program looks and access to the virtual job shadow, all of that. They're going to be getting the same thing. This is just a specific session that's around their anomaly because they are virtual or are virtual based type of program like Mountain Education Center.
All right. So we will definitely get that FAQ out. I see a lot of thank yous for that. And it'll also kind of help wrap up some of the things that we've discussed that weren't specifically in the slides as well. That way people will have that in writing, not just having to refer back to the recording. So I want to thank everybody for your attendance. We as a team are excited about this. Elise and the other ladies that have joined us have really put in a lot of work to help us structure this to hopefully roll this out in a very efficient and way that our students are going to be the ones that truly benefit from it. You have contact information. Be on the lookout for the follow-up stuff that we discussed. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their Thursday and Friday, and we'll be following back up with everyone soon.
Thank you, everyone. Teresa, tell my